Hello, everyone. We are back again. I don't even know what week it is. It's been a bit of a blur being sick. I'm feeling better now, but now Gemma is sick, and I did not give it to her because we live about 2 hours away from each other. But Gemma actually came up with today's topic about money sayings and the impact that they have on our behavior. So, Gemma, do you want to, I guess, dive into that?
Yeah, cool. So Lexi and I, we were chatting before we jumped on this session about all of these different sayings and the ones that we love and the ones that we hate. And to be honest, I couldn't find that many that I love. I didn't love most of them. But I think the key takeout, which I want us to kind of talk about today and really talk around, is how we reframe them. Because it's one of those things that when you're trying to convince yourself something that you can buy the item, or that what you did was okay, or what you said in an argument was okay, your brain can convince you of anything, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's the same about these sayings. So while there's some there that I don't like, there can be positive things in them, and it's just about how you reframe them. Just like
Mm.
a lot of people will take a saying like YOLO and make it, well, that, it doesn't matter that I spent all that money or did this or made that bad decision because YOLO. Whereas if
Yeah.
you reframe that, maybe there's some other ways that you could be thinking about that. So yeah, this one I was really excited to jump into and see, Lexi, what you think about some of them. But do you want to jump into what's a money saying that you've heard for ages and hear people say a lot that you don't like?
Rather than telling you one I don't like, I'm going to tell you a different one. I don't know how to describe it, but one that is very, very popular. And the reason why I name my business Moneyvine, because money doesn't grow on trees. So that is something that I think everyone would have heard of.
My parents have said that to me a lot, and I'm pretty sure I've even said that to my kids now. And they're probably like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. Now my kids say, when I say money doesn't grow on trees, where does it grow? They say on the money vine, which I guess is where we get our income from. So it does promote financial responsibility because, we know that we can't just go out to the money tree and get our money. We actually typically have to work for it. It's not the only way to get money, but it can also evoke feelings of scarcity, which can lead to different types of behaviors, which may not necessarily be the right behaviors to grow wealth. So I think one saying leads to another, leads to another. Like the next one that makes me think of is that you have to spend money to make money. What are your thoughts on spending money to make money?
So I tend to agree with that, but not always. Oh, I sit on two sides of the fence with that. So I think, like in business, absolutely, you've got to spend money to make money. A lot of the time, you've got to put money into advertising and the right resources. So yes, I would say that that one is true. But I think people use it as an excuse a lot of the time as well. Like, I don't know how many tradies would probably buy the new Ram or whatever and say, well, you got to spend money to make money. And like, that doesn't work in that example. You didn't actually need that item to be able to produce income.
Yeah.
So I think in the context of how I would think of business expenses, I agree with it. But in the context of how people reframe it to get what they want and to feel okay about what they're spending, I would say I wouldn't so much agree with that.
Yeah. And in terms of the one coming back to your actual question of what I don't like, it was
Yeah.
around the one where you get what you pay for. So, yes, I acknowledge in some circumstances you do get what you pay for, but there's other times whereby it ties in with something that I see quite often is that people are trying to throw money at things to fix problems and saying, well, you get what you pay for. And I don't necessarily think that that is always the case either. So we're seeing like a common theme here that there's a positive side of all of these sayings, but there's also a negative side. And using it to justify behavior is the thing that we see quite often. What would
Yeah.
your most hated one be?
Besides YOLO,
Yeah.
which I'm sure I have actually said, I was probably saying it as like a joke, a bit of a piss take. But yeah, I would have definitely said that before. But the one that goes hand in hand with that, which was probably means exactly the same thing and before YOLO became a thing, was you can't take it with you.
Oh,
or like,
yeah.
don't be the richest guy in the cemetery or whatever, in the grave, whatever. So that group of them, I really, really hate, because obviously, because we're about wealth creation and I believe in generational wealth and all of that kind of stuff. But those ones really annoy me because it justifies bad behavior. And I kind of think, well, if you reframe that, yes, you can't take it with you, but you don't know when you're going to need it. And you can make smart choices today that mean that tomorrow you get amazing opportunities and get to do amazing things that also aren't hoarding money and not doing things which these kind of have the undertones of. Most people
Yeah.
associate these sayings with, scarcity and going without, and kind of all the same things that people think of when they think of budgets, so really restrictive lifestyles. But I kind of go, well, YOLO, for example. So, but you could YOLO by, well, I'm not going to spend that because I want to YOLO in Greece on that holiday next year. So, like,
Yeah.
you can retrain yourself to think any way that you want. But I would reframe that as, if I don't want to do something today if it's not super important to me and isn't going to add a lot of value to my life, if it means that I then miss out on that overseas trip or going to that friend's wedding or starting that business that's really important to me, or an extra year off with the kids, whatever it is. So YOLO, I think, could be looked at a totally different way, that, yeah, don't do something today that doesn't add value to your life just because all your mates are, when that is actually going to stop you from living the life that you want to.
For those listening live, let us know in the chat as well if you have any money sayings that you like, or that have had an impact on your life, or maybe that you don't like, you kind of cringe when you hear them. But something that you made me just think of was in relation to just money, more money being more choices. And that's quite as simple as it is. More money is more choices. Are there any sayings? I'm just looking at the little list that I have here. This one both made us go like, ooh, when we were talking earlier. Money talks, but wealth whispers.
Oh, I
What are
love that
your
one.
opinions on that one?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people will have heard money talks. I think people say that quite a lot. And I see that as oh, that's a flashy thing. And that's kind of like Instagram to me right now. Like, you go on there and you think, oh, how are people affording that new car and that lifestyle? And they think that money talks. But I kind of look at
Yep.
that and go, well, I think the debt would be speaking louder in that sense. But what I
Yep.
love about that saying is when you added the wealth whispers part. I really, really love that, because I think that wealth is such a healthy way of looking at financial, like, abundance and, yeah, really, really healthy choices. So I
Mm.
absolutely love that saying. But money talks, I think, is what people think is happening all around them. And it's probably money, debt, financial stress that I hear speaking louder in most of those, yeah, like your Instagram reels and seeing people's best lives, which are probably fake in a lot of instances.
Yeah. And I've spoken about this in previous episodes, whereby those who actually are wealthy, they don't flaunt it. So that's why a lot of people may believe that friends and family are very well off, because it's very obvious to them. But in actual fact, it's the people who don't flaunt that wealth that often are wealthy. And that's where the wealth whispers comes along.
Yeah, there's
We've got
like a viral picture that goes around on social media, and there's three people in it, and I think like Mark Zuckerberg's one of them, and I don't know, maybe it's like Steve Jobs or someone, and then there's somebody else that we don't know, and like one of them's head to toe in like all the designer stuff, and they're like poor, rich, richest, and they get like more casual with like what they're wearing. Or there's also one on the stage and it's like not a Gucci belt inside or something, and it's just how these wealthiest people in the world are not flashing it at all. They don't have the designer. They literally are just like your plain Jane type of people. And that's wealth whispers, right? That's like the epitome of that saying.
Have you as well seen, and it might be what you're referring to now, that people like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, they will always wear the same thing, like all black or a white shirt and blue jeans. And that
Yeah.
has to do with, they say, about decisions. And that it's one less decision that they need to make if they just, decision fatigue is what it's called, because they have to make such big decisions that have such a big impact. They reduce the other decisions that they have to make in their life about like what to wear. And I find that myself, like if I kind of have 7 things that I wear consistently every single week and I'm not thinking about it, I kind of like go in the wash, come out, and I put them back on and I don't really care, then I feel like my decision-making ability in other areas of my life is so much easier.
I love a work uniform because you're all on the same. There's no, oh, look what that person's got or what they've spent money on or what they're wearing. Takes out all of that stress, because it is right. That does add a level of like social pressure of what you wear and who you wear it around. So I love a uniform for that exact thing. It takes out the decision making. It just makes everything simpler and gives everybody a level playing field, that they don't have that extra social pressure.
I've actually got a client who is living and working in Sydney, and she refuses to take her lunch to work. And she says that like that is seen as a negative thing, that she must be poor if she's taking her lunch to work. And if she ever does, she told me about this one time that she did take her lunch to work and then didn't eat it because she didn't want to be seen to be, you know, she had no money in her bank account to be able to buy. And I was just blown away by this conversation. But I think it's actually more common than we realize. People are very, very conscious of what other people think.
Because if you think about it, what are we told if we want to save money and get ahead? Pack your lunch, make your coffee at home. So if you're saying no to coffee, you're packing your lunch. Yeah, like it's all this restrictive lifestyle. Like that's the first thing that we're told. So I guess, yeah, if you're in an environment where people don't do that, you're going to look like you're in a very different restrictive lifestyle. But really, you're just prioritizing your financial health. I feel so sorry for that person. That's like a horrible position to be in, where you feel you can't just be like, no, I'm doing this because it's what's best for me, or because I made a kick-ass meal and it's so much better than buying out. Like I would hate to be in that position. It's sad.
I definitely think in that particular situation, it was a personal mindset thing. I don't necessarily believe that that was necessarily their views and what was happening, but I wasn't there, so I can't necessarily comment. But we've spoken previously about how for both of us, money has always felt so easy. And I have even said, like, I feel like money is attracted to me. Like it's always there, it always comes, it's so easy. Whereas there's other areas of my life that don't feel easy, and I don't necessarily have good results in terms of like fitness. I have not necessarily a good mindset around that, and I acknowledge that. And also keeping my space tidy. So those areas of my life don't feel easy. And so if we can find ways to make any area, like if you don't feel like money comes to you easily and that you're a magnet for money, then how can we change the way that we are talking about money to ourselves? And will that change those feelings and then change the results? What's your experience with that side of things?
Yeah, I definitely think it all comes down to reframing it. So, like, if you have negative thoughts towards anything, then I think definitely if you're having, a scarcity mindset, you're having negative thoughts about stuff, that you're going to like create that vibration, and you're going to be more conscious of it, and you're going to notice more things going wrong because that's what you're focused on happening. Whereas I think when, like, because I always have money fails, but it doesn't change my mindset that, oh, I'm still good with money. Even when I've made terrible money decisions in the past, I'm just like, oh, well, that's just what happens. And it's just what I tell myself. And I'm like, but fundamentally, you're still good with money and it's a positive thing and it will come back and all of that kind of stuff. I used to have quite a negative mindset around money. And one of the sayings that really helped shift that for me. So I got quite obsessed about money in my situation. And while I still, think I'm good with money and stuff, it's something that I think about all day, every day, and really have to turn it off, because I will see customers, I'll be sitting and working with a client and I'll just be like, I either want to be like them because they're in such a good position, or I don't. And so then I would obsess more about my own situation. It wasn't ever just like you could leave it at the door. Like I was always thinking of that. But one of the money sayings that really I had to reframe, and that I really love now is, I was telling you earlier, is act your wage. So the saying, act your wage, which is kind of like live within your means. So I say this to people, and I think it's really a good saying, but I think people need to take it in context for their life. So I was taking it with live within your means, save as much as you can, don't spend if you don't need to. Whereas when I reframed that, I was like, I'm in a position where I don't need to feel guilt around getting a cleaner because it does all these things for me. It frees up my time. It means I can work more. It means I can be with my kids more. It takes out extra pressure on my ex-marriage, because we're not fighting about that or whatever it is. So it gave so much more value to me than saving the money from not having the cleaner. And it's money, that's the other one. So act your wage, I could afford to do it. So why did I feel so much guilt around doing it? Just like, there was a time there where I was like, no, we don't need takeout. We had takeout the other week. And I was like, no, we can afford takeout. We always meal prep. We always do this. Act your wage. You can afford it. Just do it and don't feel the guilt around it.
Balance, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. Enjoy the money that you have if it's within your means. I think it was like Dolly Parton or someone's famous for saying like, yes, I can have all the surgery and the nails and the hair and everything because my bills are paid, I've done everything. But she's like, if you can afford to do it, then why wouldn't I do it? I'm in a position I can afford to, and it brings me joy.
I always put it a bit like, what's her name? The organization woman, Marie Kondo. So she will go through a wardrobe, put everything on the bed, pick out what you love and kind of get rid of the rest. And so that's how I explain spending and mindful spending to a lot of people, is that it's not about just not spending money. It's about spending on things that bring you pure joy and happiness or make your life easier so that your mental health is improved or so that you have time to go and make more money. So it's about putting all your expenses on the bed, picking out what you want to keep, and then reassessing what's left over. You also said something else earlier about speaking to a client and then kind of not being able to leave that at the door and always thinking about money. Money is such a big part of my life. One, because money touches every aspect of your life. Two, my business called Money Vine that I'm a financial coach, ex-financial advisor. Like, it's such a big part of who I am. And so I often find myself always thinking about money. Like, I will see a street light and I will think, I wonder how much that costs. Like, that's the level of how much I think about money. And so I often think, like, what do other people actually think about? So let me know in the chat, what does everyone think about when they're mindlessly like driving to their destination and they see a light pole? What do you think about that light pole? Like, I know builders will go into a house and they will automatically look up at the ceiling and start thinking about the structure or the design and that kind of thing. And I think it does have a lot to do with our careers, our occupations, as to what we might think about when we observe our environment. But, what would you say that you always think about with that, Gemma?
So both of those are really good examples and pretty much my life. So I always think about how much stuff costs. Oh, like if we're in a lineup for a theme park or something, I'll be like, oh my God, like I know that I paid this much ticket. There's this many people here. And I'm just like, oh. And I posted that on my Instagram stories the other day, and so many people commented that they were the same. So that made me feel less like a weirdo. But because my ex-husband's a builder and we've always renovated, I think about money in renovations, but also the amount of work that went into stuff. So like, I'll imagine like how many nogs are in the wall behind the plaster and how hard it would have been to get those windows in and stuff like that. But a lot of the time it comes back to the money. Like, I'll be like looking at how much the renovation would have cost and all of that. And then my financial planning hat goes on and starts going, this is a really expensive house for them to live in. I wonder if one day they're going to downsize and take out the equity. But yeah, it pretty much always comes back to thinking about money, and it makes me really happy to know that I'm not the only one that does it.
My daughter has a show on at school today, and it's $10 per child, and there's 30 odd kids in a class, and how many classes are going to it? And quite quickly you add that up and you think, like, obviously they're people doing the show, they need to make a living and all the rest of it. But I don't know. Actually, I would love to know the percentage of parents who, when they got that bill for $10 and they did the sums in their head, they were like, whoa, maybe I should go and do a show for schools.
Actually, do you know what's really annoying me at the moment on social media is going around saying how much money Taylor Swift's going to make per concert. And I'm like, no, you guys are working out the ticket sales and how many tickets. That's not how much she's going to make. The expenses are going to be huge. Like, that's not how much someone makes. That's how much it grosses before all of the expenses come out. Like, there's so much more to that. Like, just like your lighting bills and your transport bills alone, let alone all of the crew and feeding them. And yeah, so I'm just like, calm down, everybody. This is a big production.
I saw something, it must have been like an Instagram reel once, and it was very, very good. It was talking about paying for things per hour. And so if someone can do something very quickly, should they be disadvantaged by that? If someone is very, very good at whatever they do and they can do something in 5 minutes where someone else might take 20 minutes, why should the person that takes 20 minutes be paid more than the person that's actually very good and very efficient at it?
I literally took a screenshot of something similar yesterday. It says, if I do a job in 30 minutes, it's because I spent 10 years learning how to do that in 30 minutes. You owe me for the years, not the minutes. And I really like that.
And that also would tie in with another money saying, which is the best investment you can make is in yourself. Have you spoken to any clients about that? And I guess that ties in with coaching as well, that yes, you can go and invest money, in the share market or in property or whatever you want to do. But at the same time, what about investing in your education to then grow your income?
Yeah. And we always say, what's your biggest asset? It's your ability to earn income. You are your biggest asset. So I 100% believe in that. But there's things that you can be investing in yourself without education, right? Like a financial money coaching session is investing in yourself because you're learning about something that's going to help you manage your money. Whereas a lot of the time when you see a financial advisor, you're outsourcing that. And you're still, I would find that a lot of clients were still switched off. They weren't engaged because they're like, great, someone's doing it for me. Whereas when you pay a one-off fee to use someone like me, the money coaches out there, you still have to do the work. You're investing in you. You're parting with money to put yourself in a better position. So you still have to do the work. So yes, a lot of the time people think investing in me means education, but it might be getting a coach, it might be getting a cleaner or getting a personal trainer or getting meals delivered, because then I know that I'm actually going to eat healthy and eat what I need to eat, instead of like someone like me that gets to 7 o'clock and goes, I'm not cooking, I'll put toast on. If I've got like those microwave meals, I know that at least I'm going to eat healthy. So that's investing in me, I think, as well.
And that's, I guess, contradictory to another money saying, which is a dollar saved is a dollar earned. And so that saying would definitely encourage frugal habits and encourage resourcefulness, but it can also lead to not spending money and investing in yourself, which then impacts that outcome as well. So I think with any money saying, take it with a grain of salt and really try to positively apply it, or only focus on the ones that have a positive impact on your life. Anything else you want to add to the summary for today, Gemma?
No, I think that's exactly what, and we're very much on the same page with there's good and bad connotations with all of those sayings, but it's what you take from it and how you reframe it. And you can convince yourself of anything, just depending on how you want to frame something to suit your circumstances. But I think with these sayings, what we want to do is make sure that we're really thinking about why we think the way we think about that. And if we want to make positive changes to our lifestyle and make good decisions with money and perhaps change how our future looks, then we need to really actually drill down on why do we think like that and how could I reframe this to make sure it's actually going to serve me better. Because doing the same thing over and over again that hasn't worked in the past is not going to work unless you start to reframe and really break down why you feel the way you feel about money.
Yeah, and just a super simple one, like if you don't feel like you're good with money and you repeatedly say that to yourself or out loud, just switch that and say, I'm not good at money yet. Adding the word yet is so, so powerful.
And so you're going to do that with your fitness? I'm not good at fitness.
I don't exercise yet. That wraps up for this week. We will be here same time next week though.
Great.
Thanks, Gemma. Bye.